So you want to be refreshing. You want to refresh people as they pass you, as they talk to you, as they get to know you, when they hug you, when they brush their ear against your ear,
when they tickle your forehead with their eyelashes.
You don't do those things to your friends? I mean, neither do I. So, today's all about mint. Mint. We all know what mint is. We all have interfaced with mint in many different ways throughout our lives in different contexts. It's really nothing new. It's not something I feel like I have to explain to you. Even its usage in perfumery is very easy to wrap your nose around and your mind around, and it is used a lot. It is a very approachable ingredient. Therefore, we find it at the forefront of many fragrances and mainstream perfumery as well as niche perfumery, unlike some other ingredients we've talked about in this series. And yes, if you didn't know this was a series, you can check out the rest of the series up here. So yeah, as you already know, mint does come in different varieties, like peppermint, like spearmint. But all in all, I would say that the odor profile of mint is cooling fresh, green, and maybe a little spicy. There might be some degree of sweetness depending on the variety, but not really considered a sweet note. Now, in my experience, the presence of mint in a fragrance can range from being a supporting player, just adding this subtle cooling freshness that's not overtly green or spicy, all the way up to literally fresh mint leaf from the earth. And in between, people can say it smells like chewing gum or toothpaste. And that's going to be up to your association. It's used a lot in more spring and summery fragrances. However, we will see at least one exception to that. Now, if you don't know how this series works, I've separated 9 fragrances into 3 different categories of accessibility, starting meaning you're new to mint or maybe just new to fragrances in general. Intrigued, you're not new to fragrances, you're looking to dabble with more interesting fragrances. And the enthusiast, you've been here a while, you're looking for more, maybe challenging experiences, but also maybe just even deeper, more interesting experiences with fragrances. And to be honest, the enthusiast tier in this video was a little bit hard to fill because mint is not always used in such a way that is polarizing or that is challenging. But like I said, I think one fragrance that not everyone may love or even like. So with all that out the way, let's dive right into it. First up, we have honorable mentions. I'm not going to talk about any of these fragrances. I'm just going to name them. These are fragrances that many of you would expect to see in a video like this, or they've been talked about a lot by me or by others, or I haven't tried them, but I would still expect you guys to want to see them, expect to see them, or ask about them in the comments if I didn't present them. They are as follows: Mr. Burberry, Indigo. Etat libre d'orange. You or Someone Like You, also known as Eldo Yasli, Diptyque Eau de Menthe, Frederic Malle, Geranium Pour Monsieur, Xerjoff, Torino 21. I have plans to acquire this. And Parfum Marly Sedley, which I do have, but again, I'm not going to feature it because it's talked about a lot. Let's get into the real list. In our starting category, first one up is probably the cheapest fragrance on this list, and that is from what I think is called Lolita Lempicka. I've had some of you guys correct me in the past. This is called Green Lover. And in this fragrance, I would say mint is more of a supporting player, but it does define the cooling freshness that this fragrance brings. It is not really all that green, to be honest. It's actually more orange. I get juicy, sweet mandarin orange that admittedly is not the most natural, but it's still very pleasant. That is blended with a cooling freshness that kind of just surrounds it. Coming from mint, a little bit of a gin, juniper berry feel adds more of a sharp freshness to it. Not necessarily boozy though. And you have a nice warm background of some vanilla or even an ambery-like nuance that does add this rich, creamy sweetness that blends with the orange in such a way that this cooling, fresh, creamy, juicy, sweet orange comes together as an orange creamsicle, also known as an orange sickle. It smells pretty delicious, quite playful, easy to wear. Definitely something I would reserve more for the daytime. If I'm going to wear it in the evening, it's going to be casual. I'm not going to dress this up. Something a little different, great for the price. I always applaud Lolita Lempicka for doing something different, but making it super accessible. Check it out. From the house of Cartier, we have Roadster. Now, this is a discontinued fragrance. It's a little bit hard to track down. Sometimes it'll pop up on the discounters. I got mine from fragrancebuy.ca, who does get stock in from time to time. So I will link to them down below. Check the link. Maybe they have some, maybe they don't. So just keep your eye on it. You can always set an email notification reminder. Whenever they do get it back, they will send you an email saying,
"We got it back. You want it?"
And then you say,
"Yes, here's my money."
Commerce 101. Anyway, what does this smell like? One thing I'll say is this is kind of in the realm of Green Lover. However, a little bit less playful, a little bit more mature, but not vintage or old smelling. It's just a little less young smelling. There's more of a sophistication here. There's more of a woody presence from some vetiver that adds more of a backbone to it. But it is kind of sweet, creamy, cooling, fresh. There's a warmth as it dries down from that vetiver, maybe some vanilla or something like it, maybe an ambery nuance. Again, not too different from Green Lover, but not the same fragrance by any means. They are different personalities. They just might remind you of each other. But honestly, if I were to pick one, I would pick Roadster. It's just a little bit more interesting and just suits my vibe a little bit more. Again, a little bit more refined. Cartier Roadster. Final fragrance of the starting category is one that people might say smells a little bit reminiscent of gum, but it's fantastic, it's uplifting, and it is so authentic. From Guerlain, this is called Herba Fresca. This is so minty, and I will admit it does have this it has a little bit of a chewing gum feel, but it honestly just kind of hits you when you first spray it and then it's gone. After that, it's quite green. It's a green, leafy, fresh mint rounded by some florals. So there is this kind of soft roundedness to it, almost like a dense quality filling it out, even though it's still quite fresh and cooling. And it dries to something very, very soft. Definitely a unisex fragrance. Some people might say it's a little feminine. In fact, they might say that about the whole line. These are just very particular personalities. If you vibe with them, you vibe with them. If not, it's all good. Just keep it moving. But if you're interested in a fairly authentic smelling, green, fresh, uplifting mint that simply just smells delightful. That is the word that comes to mind when I smell this. Daytime, wearing lighter colors like white or pastel colors or something like that. This is one I think of. Lovely stuff. Guerlain Herba Fresca. All right, moving into our intrigued tier, you're becoming more interested in more interesting things. This one, it could have gone in the starting tier, but the other ones I think are just even more approachable. This stuff is classy mint. Classy fresh mint, and I talk about it a lot. From Xerjoff, this is Renaissance. This is going to be Xerjoff's minty presence in my videos for some time until I get to try Torino 21. Maybe that'll take the cake, but maybe it will not dethrone this. I hear it's wonderful, but I'll get back to on that. But Xerjoff Renaissance is a green fresh mint, but it's blended beautifully with some citruses. A lemon and lime combo that honestly smells a little bit like, this is gonna sound weird, flat Sprite. That probably doesn't sound very pleasant, but trust me, it's wonderful. It's basically Sprite without the carbonation. There's no real edge to it. There's not an effervescence. There's no bubbly or peppery nuances here. It is very smooth and fresh with its minty cooling nature and those juicy citruses. Dries to like a musky, ambery woodiness that kind of gets sexy on the skin and persists with no problem, at least if you're asking me. As I always say, your mileage may vary. If it doesn't perform well on you, that's not necessarily the fragrance. Keep that in mind. Xerjoff Renaissance, check it out. Up next is kind of an odd one, mainly because people claim that they get no mint out of this. I see kind of a 50-50 split. People saying, well, there's not even mint in it, even though it's in the name. I don't quite get that. Mint is what gives this fragrance its freshness, if you're asking me. From Mancera, Aoud Lemon Mint, however you want to say it. This is one of the cult classics from the brand. It's lovely. Now, it's a little linear. It's not the smoothest scent, maybe a little synthetic. The strength of it can make it a little sickly if you spray too much. So those are the cons up front, just so you know. But the pros here, a beautiful, uplifting, and kind of delicious and alluring scent that is mostly fresh. I do think the name is accurate. You do get lemon, juicy, sharp, zesty lemon, but it's kind of made creamy by almond and made a little bit candied with quite a bit of sweetness in here. The mint, I get it. Again, there is a freshness that I don't think comes from lemon. I do think it comes from mint. If you look on Fragrantica, there's no mint in sight. But if you look on Mancera's website, you'll see right there, I believe in the heart it says fresh mint. Who do we believe in this case? You decide. This has mint in it, if you're asking me. It does dry to a very slightly medicinal oud, but the oud is so in the background. The oud is the one thing I would say, maybe you might argue that. Is oud even really in here? I do think it provides a backbone, but it doesn't smell like oud. This is one not everyone may love. As pleasant as it is, especially in the air, if you get this and you spray it on your arm and you smell it up close, you might not dig it because it is a lot up close. It's very strong. It can even come off a little powdery when you smell it up close. So I don't really advise that. Let it come to you, enjoy it in the air, and then see how you feel. That is Oud Lemon Mint from Mancera. Up next is an old classic. This is a reformulation of it. I believe it originally came out maybe in the 1940s. Again, it has been modernized to fit into today's modern perfume world, and it was done so by the masterful Cécile Zarokian for the house of Jacques Fath. This is Green Water. This is one of those fragrances that is so perfectly named, it's awe-inspiring. This is a fresh neroli with a cooling, fresh mint that is definitely green. Oh man, it is kind of soapy. It is very clean. It is green. It is fresh. There is something filling it out, almost giving it more body. I think neroli can do that. Neroli can give an orange feel because it is the essence of the orange flower, the orange blossom, and can even be a little bit powdery. I think that contributes to the fullness of the scent, but it is green and fresh. That mint is undeniable here. This is going to last you maybe 5 hours, 6 hours on your skin. So I'm warning you now, it's not a powerhouse, and that's okay. Not every fragrance has to be that. It has a very particular function, just like a t-shirt does. I don't wear a t-shirt in the winter expecting it to keep me warm. You know what I mean? Everything has a purpose. Now, if that's still not good for you, skip it. Just move on with your life and you'll actually be happier. But if you are interested, I do recommend getting a sample. It is a classic scent profile, made modern, very easy to wear, has a bit of a sophistication to it, and I think that's what makes it a little bit more interesting. Green Water from Jacques Fath. Into our enthusiast tier. These three fragrances will not be for everyone. I think one of them is a little bit more approachable than the other two. And the other two come from the same house. That house is Amouage, and we'll start with Beach Hut Man. Very green, mossy, woody, and minty. The freshness in here is primarily the mint, but this is green, leafy mint from the earth with dry, slightly bitter vetiver and other woods. There's other green notes that make this smell a little bit like foliage in a way, but there's a beautiful, sophisticated element of myrrh resin, adding this glue to the scent. It's like a sweet, warm, resinous feel in the middle of all these green leaves and all this wood that gives this fragrance depth and dimension, and is so elegant. Some people will say it smells a little mature. I agree with that, so tread at your own risk. And it's a freaking powerhouse, one of the strongest fragrances in my collection, so you don't need much. You will overwhelm yourself and everyone you know and have ever loved if you spray this thing more than 8 to 10 times. You have been warned. That is Beach Hut Man from Amouage. From the house of Creed, Viking. Now this is a fougere, technically speaking. If you don't know what a fougere is, watch this video. Fougères typically derive their freshness from overtly aromatic notes like lavender, like geranium, like other herbs, and also from mint. And here it is combined with some spices like pink pepper, adds this kind of hot, fiery feeling to this fresh, cooling mint. There is some zingy citruses in here. There is lavender still adding a bit of a soapy feel, but overall it smells a little bit hot, spicy while being fresh with a little bit of a creamy, sweet, woody base that smells very gentlemanly. It does smell a little bit old school, reminiscent of something like Old Spice, but way more refined and way more interesting and complex than that. And it's not going to be for everyone. That's why it's on this tier. Some of you already don't like this, and that's okay. Some of you haven't tried it yet. I recommend you do, and there will be links to samples down below. Creed Viking. The final fragrance, also from Amouage, one of the most unique usages of mint that I have ever experienced, and it's done in a way that not everyone's gonna dig. I've heard people say this smells a little bit like toothpaste in an ashtray. Not really. I can see where you're coming from, but it's way more elegant than that. This is Enclave. This is one of my favorites from the brand. This is a 10 out of 10 fragrance for me. That doesn't mean it's going to be the same for you. This is a fresh, spicy mint with lots of cardamom. Cardamom adds a bit of this sexy edge. There's this almost ambery sweetness to this fresh, spicy quality. Very, very sharp. Very upfront, might turn some people off because it is a pervasive mint, but it dries into resins and leather and woods. There's labdanum, which is kind of a sticky, resinous, leathery quality. All in all, a little sweet all the way through without smelling like something you want to eat. The freshness will fade, so that mint is a little short-lived, as it typically is, but the overall profile of this, the identity of this, is unlike anything else I have ever put my nose on in life, and I love it. For that, I find it so sophisticated. I love to wear it more dressed up on more mild evenings. It may not kill ladies, but I don't think you really want ladies to die. Enclave from Amouage. Beautiful stuff. Get a sample. That's going to be it. I want to know what you think. If you've tried any of these fragrances, let me know down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Once again, if you have yet to try any of these, there will be links down in the description where you can get a sample. If you've already sampled it, there will be links to bottles. If you want to bolster your collection with fragrances you've already tried and love, now's your chance to add some fire to your collection. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.